What's up, guys? We are back with another Mythic Legions review, taking a look at a LegionsCon 2025 exclusive. We've got the Legacies of Mythoss exclusive version of SCAPHOID. So there is going to be a non-exclusive version. There is exclusive, LegionsCon branding on this box. He's got some exclusive parts, but we are going to get regular versions of this guy down the road as well. But I'm very excited for this guy, this one in particular, because of some of this exclusive stuff. Now, the packaging, outside of some of the branding type stuff on it, is the same thing that we're really going to see with Legacies across the board, I guess, until we get to maybe bigger figures. So you've got that, what was in the past very con exclusive style packaging for a single figure, but we've got, the figure there in the window. You've got that sort of lava burst down there on the bottom with that new logo. You've got a faction logo on one spine, and I love the integration of the artwork into that logo. You've got a product shot from Trevor Williams on the other spine, and then the back of the box gives us new artwork for SCAPHOID, and I'm loving all of this character-specific artwork. We get the cross-sell for everything thus far, and then we get our bio for this guy as well. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Mythic Legions Legacies of Mythoss SCAPHOID V2. Again, this is the convention exclusive version, so there's a number of parts with this guy that are exclusive to this set, and then there'll be a regular version without them down the road. This guy is also, again, an older figure. He's not as old as Sir Valgard with this bunch of two. SCAPHOID did come slightly later on, but he is still an older figure. He's also been reissued before, so he's not quite as rare compared to the other three Legacies figures that we've gotten so far. But when we're talking about factions in particular, there really aren't a lot of Necronominous faction characters that could have gotten a V2. There are a lot of new figures, and they don't need them yet. So there's a lot of stuff that really doesn't fall into that category, so I'm pretty happy with the fact that he is the one they chose, because again, I love skeletons, and I love the colored skeletons, so this is definitely right up my alley. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. He is definitely more articulated than the original. So we've got our head. He can look up really good. He can look down really good. You've got your tilt side to side. You've got rotation, all that good stuff. He, of course, has an opening jaw. Our arms are going to go out at the shoulders. They, of course, swivel. We've got our single-jointed swiveling elbow. You've got swivel at the gauntlet. You've got swivel and vertical hinges on these hands at the wrist. The torso underneath this is a Valiant torso, so he does have some of the, enhanced articulation, especially when it comes to crunching forward like that. It's not a full crunch, but it's better than any of the older figures could have done. You do have some tilt side to side. You've got your rotation there. Legs, as usual for a skeletons, they go further than you really need them to, just because there's not anything there. He's got that super high kick. Backwards, no thigh cut on skeletons because there is no thigh. It's just a bone. We do have our knees that go backwards really good still. They are ratcheted as they have always been, I believe, right? You do have rotation at the knee, but we've also got that new boot cut piece. So he has swivel at the actual boot. There is still swivel at the top of the ankle right there. And then you've got some rocker, and then you've got some hinge action down there at those newer boot style feet that we've been seeing a little bit more of lately. So he definitely has more articulation than the previous SCAPHOID. He is very much in line with a lot of the stuff we've seen as of late, say Necronominous Wave, and of course All-Star 6 type of figures. Now, as far as the overall look and feel, the design, and more importantly, what's different between V1 and V2, I do think SCAPHOID is, and I don't say this in a negative way, I think he is the odd man out when what we've seen so far across the four Legacy figures. So, Otho and Urzok and Sir Valgard, they all still very much look like themselves in many ways. Not to say that SCAPHOID doesn't, but this looks much, much more like a wizard or a sorcerer than, say, the original SCAPHOID. And that's been the backstory for him, why he's green. So when Necronominous turns a heavy magic user into an undead, they become green. It seeps into the bones and it transforms them. There's kind of a similar thing going for all the colored skeletons thus far. This looks more like a sorcerer to me. He doesn't have a lot of heavy armor on him. He has actual fabric. Although SCAPHOID V1 does have stuff that's supposed to mimic fabric, he has no actual soft goods. So let's pull him in. And I believe this is the original, not the All-Stars, but it shouldn't really matter. They're basically the same. So we've got our V1 on the left and our V2 on the right. I think, first glance, The colors, strikingly similar on the bones. I do think maybe our V2 is slightly more on the yellow side in terms of the highlights than the original, but he's still overwhelmingly a very lime green color. What really sticks out to me in particular is their build. Not the sense of that the parts are different, because obviously they are, but Scaphoid V1 is still in that early lineup of parts. So there's only so much to have been used, and it's all the stuff that was in the original Kickstarter, I believe. So he's got like the Dark Knight, evil arms or evil forearms and evil legs. He's got those old skeleton arms that have the armor riveted onto the arms, which I still very much love. And then he's, of course, got, some similar stuff. The pauldrons are fairly similar. The gorget, although this is not the same one. This is the one from Vorgus 2? Gorgo 2? They're the same thing. I believe that's that one. And this one is one that's been used a ton over and over again. Of course, the color for the tunic and the tabard has been brought over from the original. This is a much, much deeper purple than our new one. But what really strikes me is just how thematically similar yet very different they are. This guy looks more like a sorcerer. This looks like a battle mage to me, if I could name it. He looks much more like a battle mage. He is a warrior that also uses magic. This guy looks much more like a guy that uses magic, and that's his main deal. So that's my interpretation here. This is maybe just two different versions of what he's capable of. So I do think we've got kind of a different situation compared to some of the others, that this is not necessarily just a direct upgrade. It's more of a character progression in some ways than just a let's give him all the new parts kind of a thing. Of course, your mileage may vary on whether or not you prefer this look, but I do really like it. I'm not so sure at the moment which one I like better, because this one, I still really love this original one. I love a lot of these old evil parts, and I think it works really well on him. But I also think this design and this set of parts, specifically the incorporation of the leather goods and the actual soft goods, really makes him look more like a magic user to me. So, I could go either way, I suppose. What I do really like, is the fact that we've just got a bunch of this new stuff. So we've got, this newer loin piece down here. We've got new pieces in terms of the skeletal knees. He has an absolute ton of soft goods on him. So he's got like the 4-piece skirt thing, and then he's got the one that goes in the middle here. So he's got a whole bunch of fabric that you can give him his Marilyn Monroe moment if you choose. He, of course, has the tunic shirt style piece, so like what we've seen with all the new knights recently. So it's cinched around his waist. And then, like I said, this is a Valiant Knight torso, as best I can tell, right? And it matches this armor color, so the pauldron color and things like that, the gorget outer color, not that sort of pearly green. So it does have a little bit of a different style of torso underneath there if you wanted to use it for somebody else. He has bare bone arms, no pun intended, because he doesn't have that old style of the riveted armor. I do like the low profile pauldrons on him, and I really like this gorget with him. Something about the design in the middle and just the sort of pieces that sort of billow off of it make it seem a little bit more appropriate for him as a magic user. But beyond the soft goods and some of the major differences between this one and the original, because they are pretty glaring when you get them next to each other, the head is the star of the show here. And for a couple of reasons, right? One, it has this intricate design work in there, so that's all sculpted. It's not just paint. That's like a wash in there, or dry brushing wash, just to bring out the details. That is all actually sculpted relief into the head, so it's all part of this head sculpt. I'm curious to see what we're going to do with this one going forward. But the color absolutely just bursts out of that gorget, and it's a nice pop of color at the top of this figure. You don't see a lot of the colored bones on this one when he's covered in soft goods, so you've got a lot of it draping over him. But this is just this big pop of bright green and these yellow highlights with this very, mana runic type of inscription on his body, on his bones, that I really like. I'm curious in terms of overall backstory, like how this incorporates to other figures in the lore in terms of being turned by Necronominus. What does it actually signify? Things like that. But I really like this interpretation of him. And again, for me, how I'm viewing this figure is that this is a different iteration of Scaphoid in some ways, a different usage of his power, a different role that he's taking versus what he may have been previously with those other parts. He looks a little bit more battle mage to me in the first release, but he looks much, much more magic-infused and sorcerer-esque to go along with that backstory we've had for him for, so long now. Now, as far as accessories goes, Scaphoid has, well, quite a bit, and it is all very much themed in the pushing him towards being a full sorcerer, or more of a full sorcerer than maybe what his first figure would lead you to believe, because he was very melee weapon heavy in that first figure. He had a dagger, he had a shield, and he had a mace. There are a few things here that definitely seem to reference that first figure, though, and then he also has a few exclusive pieces that we'll talk about here in a minute. So to start with, we do get an extra head sculpt, and it, along with, like the skull that he comes with in the box, just a regular skull with a moving jaw, but this is, one we've seen before, just done up in this lime green. This does seem to be another bit of a reference to the first figure, in the sense that he had just a regular skull at that point, although it didn't have a moving jaw. We do get some extra hands, of course, so he's got like the gesturing, somewhat grasping kind of hands. You get 2 of these. You get the spellcasty leather hands. You get a set of these, of course, which definitely work with this particular figure. We have 3 different weapons here. One of the omissions from that first figure, though, he doesn't include a shield this time around. There is no shield to play off of that first figure, but he does include this. So he's got the new Warhammer that we've been seeing as of late with a lot of the new knights, but it's done up with a frosted sort of green glow on the blades up top. That's what the first mace looked like, but it was a different sculpt. It was slightly larger too, but this seems more in line with something that a figure would have if he's not, going to be bashing people with stuff. So I think this works pretty well here. I do like the idea of using this for him. He also includes one of these small daggers with the sheath, and it's got some green on it, just like that first figure did. So, there's definitely some callbacks here. He does have one of the staffs that we've seen since, the Poxus wave, right? And it's just a black and gold staff with the green bauble on the end. But of course, being a sorcerer kind of guy, works really well here. And then we have some very magic-heavy accessories that I think all of this stuff came out of the Poxus wave, right? So we've got the little raven skull here, because, you never know when you need a raven skull. He can hang it off his belt. It's got the little hook on the back if you don't throw it at him. So you've got that. And these all came in the Poxus weapon pack, at least, if not with some other figures that I'm forgetting at this point. We've got the little vials of potions that, again, can hang off his belt. And then you also get the little bundle of bones, and these, of course, are green because of Scaphoid, because you never know when you need a few extra bones. We get some magic effects, so we get one of the small spiral effects in green. And then we also get the green skull that's coming out of like the ethereal goop that you can wrap around his wrist. So he does have a number of actual magic-y effects, which I think is perfect. It very much lines up with this guy as a character now. And then he also gets a leather strap, just like a lot of other figures come with now. One of the ones that you can strap over his torso, break up that sculpt a little bit, give him a little pop of brown over the purple if you want. And then he comes with a few pieces that are specific to the LegionsCon version. The first of which is another head. So we get the green Turpiculi head with the horns. And I'm a very big fan of this figure. This is easily one of my favorite Legions in a very long time. So to get some of the parts from that guy in this color, I'm all for it. I would love to see these in other colors. I did an orange custom one just because I had to have one. So I'm very excited about the potential here. And this looks terrific in green. This like bright lime green color. I love it. But of course, being a Turpiculi head, why not give us some other Turpiculi parts? So we get the bone wings along with those. So you get the big bone wings here that you can use. You can peg them in his back. Or if you don't have a million of them already, he does include a back adapter, and it still always takes me by surprise to see these at this point, because I forget that not everybody has, a 5-pound bag of these sitting in their house, and some folks might actually need them. So you do get the back adapter that will plug into the slot on his back, and then you can have the pauldrons and the wings on him at the same time. So he is very, very loaded. There are a number of possibilities, and of course, with the exclusive version, you can swap out the head with the Turpiculi head and the wings to make an entirely different kind of character. The only thing I really wish he had extra, and it might be asking for a little bit too much with all of the stuff we have here, is the bare bones, no pun intended, torso, just to make like a full-on, or as close to one as possible, Turpiculi in green. But I'm really happy with this. I'm going to end up with, likely, way too many bone wing Scaphoid guys all over the shelf. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this guy. I'm not really surprised by that. Skeletons are always at the top of the list for me, and at the top of that list is the colored skeleton. So to get a new green skeleton, I was always going to be on board for it. But I'm really happy with this one in particular because of what's new about him. It takes a lot of what's involved with that original figure, but it makes it current. So he doesn't have just a blank torso. He has a full tunic now. He's got a newer style torso underneath that. We've got a new head sculpt with all these runes and sort of magic icons pouring out of him. He's got new armor pieces that in some ways mimic and reference the original. So he is very thematically similar, like we see with a lot of V2s, but he is very, very different at the same time. This exclusive version also comes with an insane array of accessories. I really can't get over all the Torpiculi parts. The only way this one could have been made better is if he was a full, Skeleton Legion Builder V2 with all of this stuff beyond that. I'm not sure how feasible that truly could have been, but I am really happy with the finished product here, and I need multiple green Torpiculi at this point. There is no doubt about it. So that's going to do it for this look at the Mythic Legions Legacies of Mythoss Scaphoid V2 LegionsCon 2025 exclusive. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.